have never liked when they'll have a talk show host bring on a sponsor as a guest. Because it just takes away from all credibility.
No credibility whatsoever.
None.
And especially if it's iffy, guest, and sometimes it is.
Yes.
And you're like, I can't believe they're making me do this.
Yeah.
Hopefully the good always outweighs the bad.
Yes.
And you get, to program your brands and you get to do the right thing all the time. You don't. But if you get there 90% of the time or 95% of the time, wow, that's a win. And I've listened, to stuff that you've done or whatever and go, oh yeah, he's cringing. There's somebody in the studio they do not want to be talking to.
Welcome to a podcast about music and entertainment. Before it all goes down the disposal, this is Circling the Drain.
So for some reason, you guys wanted me to kick this episode off, so here we go. This is the Circling the Drain podcast. I am Jim McCarthy. Across from me is the man Johnny B. Johnny Bozeman. Say hello, my friend.
Hello, my friend. How are you?
And to my left is always Mr. J. Harper.
Yes, James Patrick. Happy to have you kick us off here. It does feel a little different, though.
Yeah, it does, but I like it.
Yeah.
Well,
we may
have
have to do this more often, perhaps.
Or just never again. Just, you guys can care. I'm fine with just being third wheel.
Why don't you introduce our guest?
Yes, I mean, you are such, so familiar with our honored guest that we thought that it would be appropriate for you to lead things off.
The gentleman that we have today is somebody I spent a considerable amount of time with. We spent about 2-3 years together.
Yeah, absolutely.
And at the big powerhouse of 96.3 Jack FM here in Nashville, Mr. Ron Allen.
Hey,
yes, sir.
Thanks for having me, and I feel very special that you did the intro and that's uncommon. So yeah, that's good. Absolutely.
That's the big thing about all three of us. We are uncommon.
I think I fall into the little different category myself. I think we're good.
And here's the thing is that, a lot of people, when you listen to a podcast like this, what is it that you're in for this episode? We talk a lot about Nashville radio history, and Jack FM is certainly an indelible aspect and part of that history since 2005.
It's 20 years now.
Yeah, that's impressive.
20 years, yes. Yeah. It's one of the first adult hit stations really in the nation, one of the most successful adult hits radio stations, and has the longevity. It's just, what do you know? We're still on the air. Matter of fact, I just did the creative for a billboard that says still on. Yeah. That's going to go up tomorrow. So I think some people are shocked by that. I know we are.
Well, your billboards have been the best of any radio station in town.
It's fun. We've had a good time with those. And, it's not rocket science. We're not trying to put up a big message. People can't read that in 3 seconds anyway. We're just trying to have some fun and be a little stupid.
Well, and you're promoting your radio station. Imagine that.
Absolutely. And I don't want to knock the competition, but I see some of their billboards and, the logo's this big.
Yes.
And then there's a bunch of verbiage and you just go, I don't even know what I just saw.
Yeah, what the heck was that?
It's terrible.
Right. And then there's some out there that don't even do that.
They don't believe in marketing.
And
their concept.
They're buy advertising in our station, but by golly, we're not advertising ours. No.
Exactly. We don't believe in branding. Why would we do that?
Does that require spending money? Oh, hell no.
We don't do that here.
No.
We don't have money.
That's right. The shareholders would not approve.
Yes. If we can't trade it out, then
my gosh, it ain't gonna happen.
There's a T-shirt, a hat, and a pizza. Have fun. Maybe some concert tickets.
Free CDs.
Yeah,
that's right.
You don't even get those anymore. Now you just get the digital download.
You don't.
Yeah.
Here's the download code.
Yeah.
Check out when you go to checkout. Put this code in. Waka Waka 98 FM.
But heck, the talent does. We don't even get the tickets anymore. It's all the salespeople.
Yeah, the salespeople get the tickets now.
Yeah, so you don't even get that perk anymore.
Well, we have a suite. Our company has a suite at Bridgestone, and they use it for clients. And then the salesperson goes and hosts.
Yes.
And I was like, wouldn't it be cool if the talent went and hosted that?
No.
Wouldn't the client want to spend time with the on-air talent? You would think maybe.
You would think so.
Instead of the person going, can you give me money? Can you give me money? Can you give me money? Well, they're trying to enjoy a concert. Jock could just be like, hey, do you want a beer?
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's funny when I worked at WLAC, never got invited to the suite. And one night, we got invited, my wife at the time and I got invited by the Tennessean. Their suite was right across from WLAC. And I love because there was a salesperson at the door as we're walking up, and he goes, "Oh, what are you doing here?"
What are you doing here?
"I'm here to see the game." And he shuts the door on me.
Well, you see where you are on the whole totem pole, right?
So the people in the Tennessean were far nicer. So I'm over there and I'm waving at the folks. It was a fun night.
It's true, and I don't even know why I bring this up, but I had a birthday last week, and that's not the point of the story.
Happy birthday.
But thank you so much. But the company I work for, I had a couple of people walk by my door and say, "Hey, it's your birthday. Happy birthday." There was no card. There was no balloon. There was no cupcakes in the break room. There was none of that. The company that I do a little side work for says, "Oh, by the way, we forgot to give this to you." And it's the entire staff of their office had signed this card for me. And there was a very nice gift certificate to take my wife out to dinner. And I was like, I barely work for these people, but they're not in radio. So I think they like me more.
And they got you a brand new car, right? I mean,
well,
come on.
I wish we could talk about that.
Step up radio.
Yeah.
But it was just funny.
Nod.
The way radio works and feels and the vibe today is so much different than it is than when we all started.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
It's so different. Yeah. Not a good thing.
How?
Wow. How long is this podcast?
Quantify that statement.
Well, you've worked like in Wichita and Tulsa, did you not?
I did. I was in Tulsa, Wichita, and Kansas City before I came here. And, I loved all of those. Well, I loved Wichita and Tulsa. I don't know that I love Kansas City. No one from Kansas City's listening, right? I'm sorry. No, but I loved the vibe of both of those cities. And, I think Wichita is underrated. I really do. I think that it has an inferiority complex. Radio is good there.
Yeah, it is.
Radio in Tulsa is very good. And so
Tulsa's a fun town.
It was fun. It was a great, I started in Tulsa in the late 80s. So fairly small company. And, it was a different world. People truly believed in the product. That was the foremost thing on everybody's mind, that if we put the very, very best product on the air that we can, we're going to invest in it. We're going to invest in our people. And by doing that, we're going to reap the rewards of we're going to have high sales and high ratings. And what a novel concept. Instead of, today it's a little bit more of, we're going to save ourselves to prosperity. And I think we all would agree that doesn't work.
No, it does not.
No. So it's changed a lot. And I wouldn't change anything in my career. I wouldn't go back and do it differently. I'm not disappointed where I am today. I'm super excited with the radio stations and the people that I work with. Do I miss those old days and old times and old ways of doing things? Oh, absolutely. And unfortunately, I think that we have much more change on the horizon. I think as we get into, the conversations about AI and the digital space and cross, market programming, and there's going to be more cost cutting. More people are going to lose their jobs. It's not going to be why we all got into it. I'm hoping that it's still compelling enough that as people younger have other options, that it still is a viable format moving forward. We'll see. Yeah. I'm just got on my soapbox here, so sorry guys. No, but there's a lot going on out there, and I still really believe in radio and what we all do and where we all came from. And I just don't think I have a blast, but I don't think it's as much fun for the average person anymore. I don't know if I was 18, 25 years old, 30 years old. This is not the career I would be looking at.
Where are the training grounds?
There are none.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. The high school actually has a program.
Well,
for broadcasting.
There are some that do.
Awesome. Yeah.
There are some that do.
Well, I even got invited to speak to some college kids that are coming through broadcast. And I turned it down because it was right after I was let go.
Yeah.
And I thought, I have nothing positive to tell these kids,
Well,
this is your future.
Do something else.
Well, I think, there's always going to be the need for content. I think there are just different platforms that are at our disposal, aside from just, putting a tower up.
And I think talent will always rise to the top. And, there will be success in what we've all done. It may be in a completely different form. You may be doing something on 7 radio stations instead of 1 radio stations. And I hate that personally because I don't think that you're paying enough attention to the one that you should be paying attention to.
Amen.
But that's probably the business model that we're dealing with now, unfortunately. But we had a 17-year-old intern come in from high school who loves radio and would love to do something in the industry. And I was very encouraging. You don't get to see those people very often. And so I think of them as unicorns, and I want to, keep them excited about what I've done my entire life. We just had a guy come in last week that had just graduated. He was 22. He would love to get into the industry. And that was the challenge. When you have that conversation, when he says to you, well, how do I do it? Mm-hmm. And you go, well, when I started, you came in and you did weekends and you did overnights and then you did 7 to midnight and you got better and you crafted your craft and you got to do middays and then you got to do afternoons. And there was this process and you got to go to a bigger market and you got to make more money and you had goals and challenges and things that you could see in the future that were going to make this all worth it. The struggle was, there was a goal at the end that made you think I can actually make my car payment someday. There's not that now. Yeah. Can't come in.
Can you fog a mirror? That's the requirement.
Can you fog a mirror? Or, and I would take this a step farther. It's just not talent. It's sales staff's the same way.
Yeah.
It's either can you fog a mirror or unfortunately they all look like us.
Yeah.
And we're all aging out. What's the industry look like in 10 years? We have only 5 salespeople in our building.
Oh my God, really?
Only 5 at this point.
Wow.
And 4 of them look like us. Mm. So
there's
Mark
no
training.
McNulty's still there?
Mark's still there.
Is he still there?
He's still there. And he's one of the leading billers in the company. And there is that ability that he has groomed and grown and has been successful. Well, he's at retirement age. So what happens when he retires? Who do you replace him with? So I think from the on-air and content side of it, this is our world, we worry about that. I step back and worry about even the sales aspect of it. I mean, I get there are other sales jobs. You can sell something else and transition to radio, but do you? Yeah. But is that where your, life leads you?
Well, you were on my podcast, earlier last year. And, that's the one thing is I don't want to come off like I'm hammering radio.
No, not at all. I love radio.
Yeah. And that's the thing is that this is a romantic, nostalgic view and perspective of what we all experience. We were lucky enough to experience.
Well, I think we all loved radio.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why we got into it.
Right. And a lot of it was the same message I put out to anybody who's still left in the business. When what you're saying comes to pass, the people that are still there need to know they are still valuable. Yes. Because you have it over all the different content creators that are out there on Instagram, TikTok, that are struggling to create content, a couple times a week. You guys, you're doing this every day.
Every day.
You're doing this every day. You're already in the rhythm.
Yeah.
Remember that. And so a couple of people are actually figuring the pivot out, but I think a lot of people in the radio business right now are a lot more valuable to digital marketing companies. Like anybody who's like in a management position at a digital marketing company, whether you're doing content creation for influencers or whatever, hire these people. This is what they do. They live in that creative space, all the time. So there's hope.
There is hope. And I think that though there are less people doing what we all do every day, there are less people, but there are still people doing it. And there are less people to fill those jobs. Yeah. Either they've moved on to something else, they've aged out, they got smart. I don't know. There is a need for young, new talent in the industry. And as an industry, we have not done the best at bringing those people on board. And if you're a broadcaster and you're listening, wrap your arms around some of these young guys and girls and bring them in. If they're doing a podcast, show them the positive sides of radio and where it's still growing and where you can still be successful.
But Ron, the ability to get into the industry
and make a living. I mean,
Well,
when
yeah.
you can make more at Chick-fil-A, I mean, let's face it, that's an issue.
It's horrid. I mean, you can't live on $25,000 or $30,000 a year, $40,000 a year, and there are people in our building that make $40,000 a year that have full-time jobs. That's rough. Your rent is $1,500, $1,600, $1,700 in Nashville. How do you make ends meet? I worry about that. I think about that with my staff a lot. I go to war with the people that write the checks a lot. It doesn't do any good. But the reality that I try to remind myself of, and I'm so far removed from it, I forget sometimes. But when I started in this business, my first contract, I made $750 a month to do 7 to midnight.
Yeah.
And different time, my rent was $200.
Right.
I get it. But even when I was in my 30s and when I was programming, legitimate radio stations, a $35,000, $40,000 a year job was kind of expected, and you had to figure out, how do I do it? And it was worse for the guy doing midday because he was making 25, and you just go, we all struggled through those early years, I think, hoping for a point where it was going to get better. And I think it did. It did. And it does for a lot of people. But it's not an industry to get into if you want to get rich, because none of us have done it.
Right.
Yeah.
From a sales perspective, you mentioned that, sales staffs have shrunk as well. I mean, what do you find is most attractive to the advertisers these days? Is it the digital landscape, the website, being on the app, that kind of thing? I mean, what is the sales point that your sales folks seem to really have the most success with?
I will give a tip of the hat to iHeart, which I don't do very often. Their digital division is really good. They've spent a lot of money there. They've spent a lot of time and energy and effort. And from a sales standpoint, they're, I think, way ahead of where we are as a company. We have that division. It's obviously much smaller. I think we do marry radio and digital together well, and I think we do create great results for our clients. But I don't think that's the sizzle for our salespeople right now, because again, they're older. They want to go and sell radio. I think that their revenue is more closely associated with radio spots. The spot buy is going to be bigger than the digital buy. I still believe, and I think with our staff this is true, I hope it is, that the connection that we have, let's talk about Jack in particular. Moose has been with that radio station for 20 years.
What a great guy.
What a great guy, right?
Yeah.
And he is who he is, on the air, off the air, on the streets, with the sales force. He will go out on the streets and pump gas in his shorts and T-shirt. And if a listener comes up, he will make that personal connection, not because it's part of his job, it's because of who he is.
Exactly.
And he lives that every day. You can't buy that. That reality of who he is, those personal touches, that connection that he can make. And we have other people in our building that can make those connections too. You can't always get that when you're doing 7 radio brands or whatever you're doing.
And AI ain't going to do that
AI
either.
is not going to do it. That's just what a terrible thought. But I hope that our sales staff still sees the value in that personal connection. And I hope that our listeners still see the value in that. I know they do. And I believe the advertisers do. I mean, we still do a ton of endorsements. I think it still works for the client. I think we're in this cool industry that's so protected. Anybody can start a live stream. Only so many licenses are available in Nashville. FCC's protected us. We have a lane that is all to ourselves. No one can come in and encroach on what we're doing.
Right.
We have this competitive advantage. But we've tried to give it away so many times by just not covering the bases and doing it well. And I try every day. I know there's a lot of people out there every day that love radio, breathe radio, live radio, still believe in what we do every day. I think that there's a long lifespan left for what we do. It's accessible. It's free. It's easy. Everybody knows what it is. There's still great music discovery. There's still great content for talk. These are big voices, big, megaphones that reach so many people, hundreds of thousands of people every week. How does that fail? Yeah, we've tried. We try. But there's a lot of life, I think, left. Do we still struggle through some hard times? I mean, this year has been rough.
Well, especially given as we record this, it was just a couple of weeks ago, we had the major weather event here with the ice storm and that really wreaked havoc on the Middle Tennessee area. And that is where radio, the immediacy of it, can really shine, unlike any other medium.
Absolutely. And I think that a lot of radio stations in town did an excellent job with that. We were challenged by it a little bit. We don't have de-icers on our sticks, on our towers, on our antennas. So y'all, one of the radio stations I programmed, was actually off the air for 36 hours. That's a pretty devastating blow in a PPM market.
Well, it broke my wife's heart. That's her favorite station.
I'm so glad to hear that. Not that her heart was broken, but I'm glad she listens. That's hard. Jack was on low power for quite a while, and Mix was almost unlistenable for about 30 hours. And at the same time, we were getting people calling us, State Farm and other advertisers were calling us saying, hey, we would like to start a pretty significant radio buy. At a pretty significant rate. They wanted on right away. They wanted to reach their customers. And I actually hit the brakes and said, whoa. I don't love our signal. Let me get on the phone with the engineering staff and find out when we're going to be back to full power before we take this revenue. And we were able to do that. And I felt good about moving forward. But, it was we almost lost money because of it. So, I think you're right. The immediacy when you're in your car and it's snowing and you're trying to get home, you can flip on the radio station and hopefully there's somebody live in the studio who can say, yeah, this is what's going on. And this is what you can expect. Jack and y'all are a little different animals. We don't have that live air staff per se. But I think we have a valuable service. We do too. And that's just entertain everyone.
Sure.
And make a local connection. I have said for Jack, and I would say this about y'all as well, we're as live and local as anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And people will look at me and go, well, no, you're not. You're not live at all. And I go, every song that we play, that decision is made in my office. Every piece of imaging that's written and gets on those radio stations is written in my office. Every promotion that we decide to do is decided in my office. Everything that Moose does out in the streets, we talk about in my office. We are connected to the community. We are at events. We are at concerts. We are at everything that's going on in town. We are part of that. We're talking about part of that. Where some of these other companies, the playlist is corporate coming from another city. It's voice tracked. Somebody from another city that's maybe never even been to Nashville. They're reading liners that might not have been written here. Mm-hmm. They're on Googling Nashville to find out what they should talk about. We're not doing any of that. We're actually in this city. We love this city. We're part of this city. And the decisions about what you hear are made in this city. So I think of us as a local radio station. The live part is a little fishy, but we are in the studio recording stuff that plays back pretty quickly. We are talking about the things that are going on in the city almost as they happen. So I kind of stand by that statement, even though I get questioned about it.
Yeah.
Are they, to expedite the process, obviously you mentioned iHeart earlier.
Yeah.
They have proof of concept with are they actually on the air driving and migrating the audience to the podcasting properties, if you will?
I think that's their goal. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a good goal.
Yeah.
And
I think their digital space is more important to them than their terrestrial antennas.
I think it should be.
I think it should be in time. I'm not sure we're at that moment. They've been working on it for 20 years, 20 plus years. In various and I think
forms.
They've gotten ahead of the pitch count a little bit sometimes. Mm-hmm. They were really early adapters with HD. I think they saw that there were all these subchannels that they could, have content on. And they went out and they spent millions and millions and millions of dollars on these first generation HD transmitters who, by the time they got them all installed, were pretty much obsolete, you know, and then they found out, well, we have in this building, in this cluster now, we have 7 of these subchannels, but we don't have any content. You know, I literally know interns that they said, hey, do you know anything about smooth jazz? Because you want to run a radio station, you know, because they just didn't, there wasn't anything there. And so I think that the cart got before the horse a little bit, but I guess that's a good thing. I'd rather be having to pull back and learn from my mistakes than sitting on the sidelines. I think that they drive what we do as an industry. By the way, I don't always agree with the way they're driving it.
That's my point. Is that I think ultimately, you know, they're taking on all and spending this money. Are they servicing the debt? You know, we know that
bankruptcy said they didn't.
Right. This is why they're known as iHeart.
Right.
Okay. Formerly known as Clear Channel.
Right.
Which means to tell me that eventually they're going to screw this up too. So
I have faith they're going to screw it up.
So, I mean, why not take that business model with the advantage you guys have and expedite that same kind of model that seems to be working? You still have the towers and everything. Like, you still have the live and local aspect, but man, build a podcast network. You got plenty of podcasts here in town. This one being one of them.
Right. Absolutely.
That you can add to a network and sell, you know?
Yeah, I think that, you know, my company, again, smaller, we have 92 radio stations. I think that would be our goal. I think that, you know, pie in the sky, we'd love to get there. We're just not very good at it.
Right.
You know, I think we need help. We have hired some people in the last 6 months that are pointing us in that direction. I think there's hope and there's more direction and more of a goal. But it's not easy, you know, and I think for 2 reasons. One, you've got these old school broadcasters, and I may be among them, that are resistant, that aren't 100,000% on board because I'm worried about protecting my traditional signal. And then you've just got the expense and the knowledge to help you move forward. You know, 2000, I remember late 90s, you know, I had corporate coming in telling me that everything was going to focus on my website. You know, we had to sell the website. We had to get all this stuff going. And I was like, well, awesome. Great. What about all these unsold spots? Why don't we sell some radio while we're at it? And you know our website is a thing. It's not the thing.
Right.
You know, so we have all seen things come and go to the industry that was going to be the next big thing. And I'm not detracting from where we are. I think we are moving in that direction, but I think that's why there's some hesitancy and some nervousness about jumping in with both feet. iHeart jumped in with both feet. They've done really well. They make money from their podcast. They make money from all their digital investments. Again, I think they've done really, really well at that side of the business. Has it been at the expense of what's coming out of the speakers? That would be my question. They've taken all this money and dedicated it to their digital platforms and cut air staff, you know, or cut promotions budgets and cut marketing. And, you know, I don't know that was the right thing to do. I think they gave up on what got them to the dance too fast. No one in their organization said, we gave up on radio. I'm sure that was never a conversation, but they did move a lot of resources quickly.
Well, how many plates are they spinning though over there? They got events, concerts.
They're spinning a lot of plates.
Yeah, they are.
And they're making money from a lot of those spinning plates.
Yeah.
Maybe more at this point than they are from some of the terrestrial radio properties. You know, and good for them. You know, if it was a two-way street, if radio paid for these advancements and then these advancements started making money and they paid for radio to have more promotions, more talent, more opportunity.
Exactly.
I would be super excited. I think it's a one-way street. I think radio helps pay for our digital initiatives. And then if there is return from those initiatives, it goes either to the bottom line or to corporate. You know, it doesn't funnel back to, wow, we had an amazing digital year. You can have a couple more part-timers, or you get a new midday show, or wow, you get a new vehicle because your vehicle is 17 years old. You know, that doesn't seem to be the business model, you know, which it's a business. I understand it. You know, none of us got in to do this for free, and neither did the corporations we work for. They expect return on their investment.
Now, in terms of the social media component, I mean, are you being told to replace, for lack of a better term, a lot of the marketing that was part of a budget at one time, and now it's, well, you know, Facebook's free, Twitter's free.
We get Facebook's free.
Yeah.
You know, on occasion, I will get some dollars dedicated, you know, to geofencing a concert or something, if it just makes sense for the brand. For y'all, it's pretty simple. If you know, Clint Black is at the Ryman, well, there's a fish in a barrel opportunity. I don't get those dollars very much. Again, whatever goes to digital stays in digital, and it doesn't really come back. We understand, you know, in our building and my staffs, how important social media is to everyone, how important their phone is to everyone, how important it is to the survival of what we do. So we're trying to take advantage of every opportunity without spamming and without cluttering up people's lives to be part of the interaction of their day. And that's where the Moose comes in, or the Taylor on y'all, me a little bit on y'all. We just hired Carissa Ella on y'all to have a little footprint in their life. And again, it's that personality driven stuff that if we can get into your social media a little bit without being overbearing about it, absolutely behooves us. It's something that we need to be doing better at. I think we do a fine job. Fine's a terrible word. We should do better.
Do you have someone dedicated to keep track of all that? Because that's a heck of an undertaking. That's a full-time gig to really do it right.
I would say that it is a village effort.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, for Jack, for an example, we have a marketing person who is assigned to that brand and to y'all. So she officially would oversee that, but she has 15 other responsibilities.
Sure.
So Moose is helping her. I am helping her. Anybody that goes out for the promotions team, and we do have about 6 or 7 part-time employees that make up the street team. So if they're out, they post. You know, if I'm just driving down the road and I see something that makes sense, I'll post. I like it more when Moose does it, and you know, or Taylor does it. I think that no one really knows me, you know, a little bit on y'all, not really on Jack this much. But when Moose does, or when our promotions team does it, there's not that personal connection. If Moose says, "Hey, it's Moose and I just saw this," just, you know, and does it through social media, I think there's, again, that personal connection. There is more sales-driven content now than there was 5 years ago, because though we try not to sell that, when somebody comes in and says, "Hey, here's $500, you take the money.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah.
You know?
What would be an example of like sales driven content? What does that look like?
Oh, I mean, content is sales driven. You know, XYZ grand opening. Okay. Moose, and if we're doing a remote, Moose is going to be there. Okay, that's fine. But if Moose isn't going to be there and they just bought a schedule, but all of a sudden we're posting about this amazing grand opening they're doing, it crosses a little bit of a line. And I mean, there's a little tagline, the sponsored content, whatever, but they don't see that. They just see that we're promoting it and it's spam to them. Right. So, or at least that's the way I look at it. If I get it, I go, yeah. Why did I get this? You know, and if it's got my logo on it, then I'm like, yeah. It's got my logo, and people are going, I don't want to do that. Come on, we're better than that.
Well, it's kind of like talk radio. I have never liked when they'll have a talk show host bring on a sponsor as a guest. Because it just takes away from all credibility.
No credibility whatsoever.
None.
And especially if it's iffy, you know, guess, you know, and sometimes it is.
Yes.
You know, and you're like, I can't believe they're making me do this.
Yeah.
But, you know, hopefully the good always outweighs the bad.
Yes.
You know, and you get, you know, to program your brands and you get to do the right thing all the time. You don't. But if you get there 90% of the time or 95% of the time, wow, that's a win. You know, yeah. and I've listened, you know, to stuff that you've done or whatever, and go, oh yeah, he's cringing. There's somebody in the studio they do not want to be talking to. But you know, I think it's forgivable periodically. I don't know that the audience always holds us accountable. I don't know if they're as critical about those things as I am. Maybe I'm just a cynic, but or maybe we're just more aware and more in tune.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one thing I did love about Phil Valentine is that he he never would allow, like salesperson would come in and say, hey, so-and-so wants to be a guest on your show. And he'd go, no, they're a client.
Yeah.
So he said, I got to have a wall.
For a guy who's programmed music stations his whole life, I listened to Phil. I was definitely a P1. And
thank you.
No, absolutely. So honest. Just thought he was such a bright guy and so just real and so honest and just so insightful. I would look at those numbers in afternoons and just go, oh, he's killing me. But he should have been. Those were those were great shows.
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
And he was the best.
And you were a huge part of it.
Well,
it's
thank
just,
you for saying that.
I miss listening.
I miss it myself.
No, it's good radio.
Yeah.
And compelling content and, not decisive in it, and just thought out.
Well, he was reasonable. He wasn't like a lot of, some talk show hosts it's just an echo chamber. It's like the guy that they voted for or they're championing can do no wrong.
Right.
If somebody that he voted for did wrong, well, I mean, look at Glenn Cassida.
Right.
He really
right
laid into him.
Yeah. I just, I always felt like he was telling you the truth.
He was. He was an honest guy. That's why I knew I'd go far. I said, I'm not leaving this guy because he's the most honest man I've ever met in radio. He'll tell you the truth. Sometimes it hurts.
I don't know if that's ever been somebody's business model. Tell the truth, you might win. Really? Wow, novel concept. Didn't think of that. Why didn't somebody tell me?
Well, Ron is a guy that programs music radio and has all these years. What do you see yourself separating music radio from the Spotify's, the YouTube Music, the Apple Music? I mean, what is your advantage?
I think that when I look at the pure plays and what they're doing and I listen, I'm part of that group, I guess. I think we still have, and I don't want to harp on it, a couple avenues that we win. One is Moose.
Yes.
One is that, we're giving you an opportunity to be local.
Personality,
content that they don't have. I think even our writing that's local and funny and entertaining, our billboards, when people see that, they realize there's a connection there. When I listen to XM, satellite radio, I'm really into it for about a week. And then after about a week, and it's weird, I feel like there's something missing, and I'll be just all in for a week. And then I won't listen for 6 months because I just feel like there is something going on that I'm not aware of in my community. And then I'm back to terrestrial radio. I think with the writing, the connection, the personalities, and there is still great music discovery. You don't have to, people are lazy. I'm lazy. I don't have to go to Spotify and search my playlist and I put in what I like and I put this thing and it tells me that I might like this guy or whatever. I don't have to do any of that. I can drive in my car and some dude like me picked out some songs they thought I might like and they're playing them for me. And maybe I do like them. And then I have music discovery and I didn't even know I was. And now I have a new artist that I like. I think it can be that simple, I think you still have, as crazy as it is, somebody's doing a big show at Bridgestone and everybody's excited about winning those tickets. That's really not who we are as radio stations, but that personal connection and that fun is who we are. We're doing trips to the Caribbean a couple times a year. A lot of people they're never going to have that experience unless we give it to them, that people work really hard. And to take, $10,000 and go on a vacation is just not reasonable for them at this point. I think we offer really cool things for them to interact with us with. And I just think that we're family to them to some extent. Pandora is never going to offer you that.
Correct.
No.
Correct.
No, and they don't have Moose.
And they don't have Moose.
I mean,
they don't have the budget that we have for his shorts.
Well, I'm just so glad that you guys have kept him this long because you talk about a personality. That dude.
Yeah. Well, and I'm here, pat myself on the back. When I came in, and Jim, you'll probably remember some of this. His image was a little different. They kind of had him in broken glasses with a piece of tape, and they kind of
Yes.
had the pocket protector and, the short sleeve shirt untucked. And one of the first things I did when I got there is I sat down with him and said, "Is this you?" And he was like, "Oh no, this is not me at all." And I was like, "Well, who are you? As a person, who are you?"
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh, I'm this big, lovable teddy bear." And I said, "Well, then why are we doing that?
Exactly.
Why don't you just be a big, lovable teddy bear?" He goes, "Well, I wear goofy shorts." And I go, "Okay, wear goofy shorts, be a big, lovable teddy bear, throw those fake glasses away, take that pocket protector out. That's just dumb. Let the audience behind the curtain and show them who you are as a person, as long," and this is a huge caveat, "as long as you're okay with that, because you're going to get stopped at the gas pump and people are going to go, 'Are you Moose?' And you're going to have to buy in."
Yeah.
So if you're ready to take that step, if you're ready to take your personal life and make it a brand and make it part of this brand where you're never going to get a moment's, away from it, then let's move forward. And he said, "I want to be one of the most recognizable air personalities in Nashville, and I don't have a show." And I was like, that is a great goal. Let's see if we can get that done. And it's pretty close.
Yeah.
For a guy who is not doing mornings or middays or afternoons, he's as visible.
He's doing all days.
Yes, he is.
He's as visible and as connected as anyone is. I think he has as many loyal fans, and I see them out on the streets. I'm shocked. That's probably a big word. I'm amazed. Maybe we'll say that. Jack is a huge brand. It's been here for 20 plus years now. It's had amazing ratings. We've had, I think it's 54 number one months, 25, 54 persons. Cumes sometimes 350, almost 400,000 people, along with our sister station Mix, just has been these dominant powerhouses for a decade, Mix much longer. When I go out on the streets and I'm around those brands and I see the excitement that you don't get with Pandora, when I see listeners coming up and talking and interacting with the brands, I expect a positive experience almost every time. And I expect it to be substantial. When Mix is out there, when Jack is out there, it's noticeable. I did not expect that with y'all. I've called it my little baby brand. It's 2.5 years old now. It's not like nobody was doing country in this market. There were stations out there. When I'm on the streets, when I'm behind a table or on a stage and it's at a y'all event or we pull up in the y'all truck, it's the same response.
Yeah.
It's this overwhelming excitement about the brand. And, it cumes 100,000 instead of 300,000 or 400,000. Its ratings are not anywhere near what Jack or Mix's are. But there is a very loyal, connected
Big time.
Yes.
audience for that brand.
My wife is a perfect example.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And
She's got me hooked.
People have come to me and said, "Why didn't this happen before?" There's this huge, just amazing amount of music that was so big in the 90s that people just didn't play.
Yeah.
So, we don't play anything older. The first thing is a 1980 Alabama song. So we go back to 80. We stop at 2005, one 2006 song at this point. That's just such a great time for country radio. And, nothing against our competitors. They were all doing a very fine job, but they were all sort of doing the same thing. I mean, I'm friends with some of those guys. I love listening to them. I listen a lot. But they all kind of sound musically the same.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a little difference between KDF and SM. Now, so more, not sure that was the right move, but now so more. But we just felt like, there's this lane that's super underserved, not served, not even underserved, just not served, that we can put a Jack type brand on, run fairly inexpensively and be very successful. And, when we launched, I think I said this, a few months ago with you, I went on record saying we don't have to beat anybody to be successful. That's not the goal. The goal is to be viable and to be listened to. We need to find our voice and our audience. I'm not worried about the big three. They're great radio stations. When we launched, that week, Mix was 1, Jack was 2, SIX was 3, KDF was 4. I do not remember who was 5, and WSM was 6. So 3 of the top 6 radio stations, 2554, were country the day we launched, the week we launched. There has not been, and this is devastatingly bad for all of us, there has not been a top 10 country radio station, 2554 persons in the last year. So, and I don't think it's the music cycle. I think we did everything's compressed. I think we did just enough damage. It brought everybody down just enough that everybody else snuck in front of them. We are normally the 3rd country radio station. We always beat at least 1. There are times we've beat 2. There are times we've beat all 3. Like 3 months. I'm not going to hang my hat on that. But we are competitive now. We have found that lane. We have found our audience. And even though, like, I have Taylor as kind of the face of that brand, she's a 30-year-old female. She's a songwriter. She's been connected to the country music industry for 10 years. She's great with the artists that we have coming in. We have tons of artists coming in because they're here and they're accessible. So there's something else that we have that the pure plays don't have. We have artist interaction coming in. We do Talking with Taylor on Sundays, and every week there's somebody in the studio talking to us that's got a number 1 song, and we're getting to find out what they're doing now and, what's going on with their life. And sometimes I'm just curious, if somebody had 1 hit in, 95, I haven't even kept up with them. It's kind of interesting sometimes to go back and see where they are and what they're doing. And a lot of times they're still out on the road.
Oh, big time. That's about the only way they can still make a living.
That's the truth.
Yeah. So I think we still have a lot. I mean, that's like a 10-minute answer to a question. So sorry, but I think we still have a real lane that our competitors. I mean, the digital side of it is awesome. You can take your phone and go listen, and there's going to be some music that you're going to discover. But we're still doing that for people.
Well, I would think that your lane has gotten wider since WSM-FM dropped the whole Nash icon thing.
It has.
Yeah.
I wanted to send somebody a fruit basket.
I know who that is.
Yeah,
I kind of do too. So, and it's funny. Charlie, is a friend, and I've known Charlie for a while, and he would say we're friends. I would say we're friends. When he left the building, I always wondered, you have these 2 huge brands. Why can't you squeeze SIX? Why can't you get on either side and do real damage? Because SIX honestly was probably the dominant country radio station through a lot of those years. And I thought they sounded a little bit better. I thought musically they were a little bit better. By the way, and if the iHeart people ever hear this, I apologize. I'm sorry. I did not mean this. All the iHeart people don't want to talk to anybody. They're not friendly with you. They don't want to, if you see them in an event or a concert, they're like, oh, it's you.
No,
the Cumulus people are very kind and very generous with their time, and they'll talk to you. And I have relationships with most of them, and we're all just one big happy family. For whatever reason, the iHeart people aren't in our family. But where was this going? It was with Charlie, and
gone honest.
It was way too honest. Nobody quote me. Is this on? No, I'm in trouble. So the funny thing is I thought he could do this, and he didn't do it. And Charlie, I'm sorry. I just thought he could do more damage. And then when Travis came in, a year or so goes by, and I get it. If I come into a building, I'm not going to make a bunch of changes in the first year. I need to get the lay of the land. I need to understand why people are doing things before I screw something up.
Before you did it the way he did it.
Right. Yeah. Well, because maybe you don't know. Right. I mean, I've seen people rush into decisions and then go, oh, no, the whole building just fell down because I pulled this out.
And I'm out.
Yeah. And then that's the guy with the resume that every year he has a new job title.
Sorry, was I not supposed to do that?
Well, it happens. I've known some guys that do that. So I would not do that. And I think Travis didn't. I think he didn't do it. But, he took musically is KDF's a different animal right now, especially during his show. There's a lot of undiscovered music there. And he has a very specific, unique idea for what he I haven't talked to him about it. Maybe I don't know. I believe he has a very specific idea and direction that he wants that radio station to go. And he is, damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead, and he's getting it there. And if he can push it over the finish line and he can accomplish the things that I think he wants to accomplish, he is going to be the smartest guy in the Nashville radio industry. If he doesn't get it there, the resume gets another line. That's the way the industry works.
That's the way the business is.
What?
and I listen, when I hear, I'll hear an album cut, something that the label is probably throwing a fit about because he's not playing the single. And, the first time somebody misses a number one because, KDF played the album cut 10 times instead of the current single, we'll see what kind of pushback there is. I don't know. I love the aggressive behavior. I love I'm going to think outside the box. I love that I'm willing to roll the dice. I love that I'm going to do something different and take chances, and I'm going to revitalize this brand. I love all that. It's a bit of a gamble.
Yeah. Well, WSM-FM now, since, the Nash icon was dispensed with, I mean, it's pretty just kind of middle of the road mainstream now.
It is. And, I always thought Big D and Bubba probably should have been the morning show there instead of KDF. Thought it fit the brand a little bit better. The way the move happened, I think, was a little abrupt. I'm not disappointed that they're over there. I haven't talked to them about it specifically. But I think it's a great home for them. The air staff that had been there traditionally and had my respect that, don't work in the building any longer. I felt bad for them, moving the folks from KDF and kind of clearing the way over, I think was a little bump in the road. I get it. Sometimes you have to break the eggs, to make the omelet. I think that's what he was trying to do. I really like some of those people that aren't there and thought they did a fine job. So, it's a business. I understand that. It's a sad part of the business. What I didn't get about the move and being an armchair quarterback, and Travis will beat me up the next time he sees me for saying this. You spent 3 years building the Big D and Bubba show as a part of KDF. It was on the RDS. It was in all the promos. It was so much a part of that brand purposely. I mean, everything was about Big D and Bubba in the mornings. And by the way, this is going on WKDF. And then overnight they moved them. And they didn't move them off. They didn't go away. They went to the sister station down the hall. So in my world, I say, wow, this is awesome. We've just had this amazing thing happen. And I run 1,000 promos going, if you love Big D and Bubba, don't worry, they're down the hall. Here's where you find them. I'm going to move that audience.
Yeah.
That didn't happen. There was very little noise on the radio station about where these folks went.
Yeah, where did they go?
Where did they go? And I think that it was one of those things where I would have done it differently. I would have, I programmed both these radio stations. I want to see both of them succeed. And I think the focus really shifted to KDF and the new future and the goals there. And then we're going to take these pieces and we're going to toss them over here and I should not be having this conversation. It's over my pay grade. And I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm completely wrong. So I absolutely wasn't in the room, obviously. But it just feels like, from a listener standpoint, that the focus became, we are going to get KDF across the finish line, and it is going to attack SIX, and we're going to be the number one country radio station. And I don't care what happens with everything else. And from a programmer who loves radio, that hurts a little bit.
Yeah.
You're throwing away a big stick. Again, that's a big statement. I don't mean anything by that other than outside looking in.
Sure. I mean, that's just a competitive analysis.
Right. I have this, I wish I had that stick. If I had that signal for y'all, wow. I mean, I'd love to have it. we'd love to buy it and have it in our building. That's just not going to happen, and I think it's a little bit of an afterthought right now, which is sad because there's some great people over there. Mm-hmm. There's been great people over there. There's some great programming over there. They still make money. They're still viable. I just want them to be important too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Out of all the music radio that you've programmed, I mean, is there a format that just really gets your juices going?
Polka. I love polka.
Jimmy Sturr is your guy.
Oh man, I just I love me some
Frank Yankovic.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna do.
Double shot.
I country's probably in my blood. Mm-hmm. I've programmed a bunch of country radio stations. I've launched a handful, 3 or 4. But adult hits, it's the music that I grew up with.
Yeah.
And, I graduated high school in 82. That was a 1982. They had numbers back then. And, so Journey and Boston and, all those were the bands,
Sure.
So we get to still play all those. And I was fortunate. There was a couple, I heard the very first Jack launch. I was in Wichita, actually. And I heard the first Jack launch in the country in Denver. And it was on this little rim shot stick that didn't have much of a chance. It sounded awesome. And I don't even remember how I found it, started streaming it, started listening to it. So this is probably 04. And just fell in love. Went to my company at that time, which Journal, and said, we have this stick that hasn't been successful. This is what we should be doing. Thank God they didn't listen to me. They were like, no, we're not going to do that. So a couple of years go by. I leave, go to Kansas City, had an opportunity to come back to Wichita, and Connoisseur Media was restarting their company. They had bought some construction permits, and they said, we're going to do this adult hits thing. And my first thought went, oh, they're going to do Jack. So I went in and had the conversation with them and found out it was going to be a Bob. And Joel Folger had been part of that. And I met him back in Wichita, drove in from Kansas City, and we went to a hotel conference room, and he said, this is what we're doing. This is how this schedules. This is what it looks like. Couldn't have had a better teacher at that point because he was on the ground floor of adult hits. So I think I spent 2 or 3 hours with him, and he said, do you want the job? And I said, I think I probably do. And he goes, okay, well, this is now your laptop. And I went, what? And he goes, so here's a key. Here's your laptop. Here's the password. Can you just start scheduling music tomorrow? And I said, well, I'm still working in Kansas City. And he's like, no, you got this. Here's the transmitter site. That's where the computer is. They're building studios. They'll call you on Monday. And I was just like, I think I program an adult hits radio station now. And so that's sort of how I got involved in it. And Joel passed away a couple years ago, and he consulted a station in Austin and a station in Pittsburgh, which if you go back and research the last 10 years of adult hits radio stations, my Jack and those 2 Bobs are probably the highest rated 3 consistent brands doing adult hits. And his footprint is definitely on all 3 of those. So there's a little tip of the hat that the guy knew what he was doing. There's a couple other guys that were doing it at that point too, but Joel really kind of taught me the ropes. So I love adult hits, but there's something about country I love too. The first really big radio station I worked for was K95 in Tulsa. And, that was when you had a $500,000 marketing budget. Yeah. That's when we had a concert every week at Tulsa City Limits, which is the club that, Ronnie Dunn wrote Boot Scootin' Boogie about. The video was filmed there. I was there. I mean, that was the heyday of doing country. And that stuck with me. So when I started Y'all, I actually referred back to that time and some of the print, and my LPD from K95 called me and said, oh, it's amazing that you even mentioned the brand. And I was like, no, it's just, that's who we're going to be. So that has always been a part of me, even though I kind of grew up in that rock vein. So I'm getting the best of both worlds. I get to relive my, teenage years doing Jack, and I get to relive, my 20s doing country. And I'm doing this thing with Pickle Jar too. I have a little connection there. And so I'm getting to do new country as well. So I don't think I could pick 3 better formats to play with.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah. Does keep me a little busy.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that. So it's fun.
All right.
There you go.
I just rambled on, got myself in
We just
all
pulled a
kinds,
string, man.
all kinds of trouble because I've said things that somebody's going to quote me on now.
Hey, we all got in trouble on this one, bud.
Remember, you signed the release. So.
Yeah, you know, I have a Krusty the Clown doll in my office that has the string, and you just pull it, and it actually has. I don't know if anybody's seen the episode, but there's one where there's a flip on a switch on the back that says evil or good, and if it's evil, it says like Krusty's going to kill you, those kind of things. And it's like, oh, Krusty loves you if you put it on good, and I don't know what it's on right now. Maybe I should have checked that before I came and did this. I have to check my back, but Travis, I'm sorry.
Well, hey, this is what a very natural and organic feeling conversation can produce.
That's exactly right. Yes. And we do this all the time. We get ourselves in trouble. So
well, then I don't feel bad. No, and I just feel like I just completely rambled on the whole time. So
no, you did not.
Okay.
It was entertaining and informative. And we've enjoyed having you on with us.
Well, I appreciate the invite.
Appreciate your time running all these stations.
And Jack FM, and of course, y'all.
Yeah.
Because my wife, like I said, and she's made a convert out of me. Now when I get in her truck, I tune to y'all.
Well, if you can find about 200,000 more people, I'll do it.
I'll go to work for you because I got time now. Jay, tell folks where they can find
Absolutely. Of course, we always like to point you to the website, circlingthedrain.net. But again, you can see our lovely smiling faces. This is a video podcast at our...
we have faces for radio.
Yes, our social media. Yes, our social media. That would be Facebook, of course. Just search Circling the Drain Nashville on Facebook. You can also find us on X, formerly Twitter. How long do we say formerly Twitter? Probably forever.
Probably
and, of course, our YouTube channel. Like and share.
Do the thing that radio does. The all-new X.
Yeah, the all-new.
And say that for 5 years.
5 years.
The all-new X.
But yeah, circlingthedrain.net. Man, we got T-shirts. We got hats. We got all kind of fun stuff.
We got even photos of all three.
Yes, the scary photographs.
Yeah.
So we appreciate you checking things out.
And check us out next time on Circling the Drain.